Good evening and welcome to the Bethany Baptist Church Midweek Connection Point. This is the time where if you are gathering with us in person at 7 p.m., we'd be meeting to go through God's Word just the same and sing songs, share prayer requests, and our evangelism encounters if we've had any. It's a great time to encourage one another. So we wish you could be with us tonight, but since you can't and we still love you, we know that maybe providence or just COVID and your own safety has kept you home. We're doing what we can to keep you connected through this video. So we long for the time when you can be back with us. We know you can't tonight, but this is Midweek Connection Point for Wednesday, December. It's already the 16th. A couple of announcements I want to share with you before we go to 1 Samuel chapter 20 is this, that our members and guests have been exchanging Christmas cards in the safest manner possible in our foyer. If you'd like to save on postage, you can drop by sometime when I'm here and let you in and put those Christmas cards in the box. We're encouraging people to take the money they would have purchase postage with to give towards the Lottie Moon Christmas offering for International Mission Board that we're proud to support. Also, if you'll be worshiping with us in person Sunday morning, we'll be taking the Lord's Supper as a church. So be preparing your hearts. If there's any breach of fellowship that you're aware of, be pursuing reconciliation, at least seeking peace and speaking to that person in a redemptive way. It's good practice for all of us to be doing before we take the Lord's Supper, to take it seriously because the Lord commanded such. A couple of other announcements. Next Wednesday night, there will be no Midweek Connection Point video, nor a Wednesday evening service or Christmas Eve service, to give people a chance, one, either to travel. If you're like me, you might go see family that live out of town. Also, if you're in town Wednesday night, instead of worshiping here for our Christmas Eve, Christmas caroling special, will be with the Bakers. So the Baker family, if you need information on getting there, they'll be hosting a very special caroling party. It's probably their 8th or 9th year doing that, and they've invited us for the last couple of years. We're thankful for them. It's a good way for us to still get to sing and celebrate Christmas, maybe not in our building, but still with church family. So I invite you to come to that next Wednesday night. No evening services next Wednesday or on Thursday, Christmas Eve. And then this Sunday at 2:30, if you'd like to come back after our regular worship service, we'll be going and traveling safely to go carol and sing and visit some of our shut-ins and widows and let them know that we still love them and appreciate them. So come join us if you can. If not, follow along in the Word as we're able to post that on Facebook and YouTube. So I'm going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 20. We're continuing chapter by chapter in the Old Testament to balance our diet of slow but steady, verse by verse in Romans on Sunday morning. So 1 Samuel chapter 20, very good passage again. I love the book of 1 and 2 Samuel. It reads this way. Then David fled from Naioth in Ramah and came and said before Jonathan, "What have I done? What is my guilt? And what is my sin before your father that he seeks my life?" And he said to him, "Far from it, you shall not die. Behold, my father does nothing, either great or small, without disclosing it to me. And why should my father hide this from me? It is not so." But David vowed again, saying, "Your father knows well that I have found favor in your eyes, and he thinks, do not let Jonathan know this, lest he be grieved. But truly as the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, there is but a step between me, David, and my death." Then Jonathan said to David, "Whatever you say, I will do for you." And David said to Jonathan, "Behold, tomorrow is the new moon, and I should not fail to sit at my table with the king. But let me go, that I may hide myself in the field till the third day at evening. If your father misses me at all, then say, David earnestly asked leave of me to run to Bethlehem, his city. For there is a yearly sacrifice there for all the clan. If he says, good, it will be well with your servant. But if he is angry, then know that harm is determined by him. Therefore deal kindly with your servant, for you have brought your servant into a covenant of the Lord with you. But if there is guilt in me, kill me yourself. For why should you bring me to your father?" And Jonathan said, "Far be it from you. If I knew that it was determined by my father that harm should come to you, would I not tell you?" Then David said to Jonathan, "Who will tell me if your father answers you roughly?" And Jonathan said to David, "Come, let us go out into the field." So they both went out into the field. And Jonathan said to David, "The Lord, the God of Israel, be witness. When I have sounded out my father about this time tomorrow or the third day, behold, if he is well disposed toward David, shall I not then send and disclose it to you? But should it please my father to do you harm, the Lord do so to Jonathan, and more also if I do not disclose it to you, and send you away, that you may go in safety. May the Lord be with you, as he has been with my father. If I am still alive, show me the steadfast love of the Lord, that I may not die. And do not cut off your steadfast love from my house forever. when the Lord cuts off every one of the enemies of David from the face of the earth. And Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, May the Lord take vengeance on David's enemies. And Jonathan made David swear again by his love for him, for he loved him as he loved his own soul. Then Jonathan said to him, Tomorrow is the new moon, and you will be missed because your seat will be empty. On the third day, go down quickly to the place where you hid yourself when the matter was in hand, and remain beside the stone heap. And I will shoot 3 arrows to the side of it, as though I shot at a mark. And behold, I will send the boy, saying, Go find the arrows. If I say to the boy, Look, the arrows are on this side of you, take them. Then you are to come, for as the Lord lives, it is safe for you, and there is no danger. But if I say to the youth or the boy, Look, the arrows are beyond you, then go. For the Lord has sent you away. And as for the matter of which I have spoken, behold, the Lord is between you and me forever. Verse 24, So David himself hid himself in the field, and when the new moon came, the king sat to eat food. The king sat on his seat, as at other times on the seat by the wall. Jonathan sat opposite, and Abner sat by Saul's side, but David's place was empty. Yet Saul did not say anything that day, for he thought, Something has happened to him, for he is not clean. Surely he is not clean. But on the second day, the day after the new moon, David's place was empty. And Saul said to Jonathan his son, Why has not the son of Jesse come to the meal either yesterday or today? Jonathan answered Saul, David earnestly asked leave of me to go to Bethlehem. He said, Let me go, for our clan holds a sacrifice in the city, and my brother has commanded me to be there. So now if I have found favor in your eyes, let me get away and see my brothers. For this reason he has not come to the king's table. Then Saul's anger was kindled against Jonathan. He said, You son of a perverse, rebellious woman, do I not know that you have chosen the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the shame of your mother's nakedness? For as long as the son of Jesse lives on the earth, neither you nor your kingdom shall be established. Therefore send and bring him to me, for he shall surely die. Then Jonathan answered Saul his father, Why should he be put to death? What has he done? But Saul hurled his spear at him to strike him. So Jonathan knew that his father was determined to put David to death. And Jonathan rose in the table in fierce anger and ate no food the second day of the month, for he was grieved for David because his father had disgraced him. In the morning Jonathan went out into the field to the appointment with David, and with him a little boy. He said to his boy, Run and find the arrows that I shoot. As the boy ran, he shot an arrow beyond him. And when the boy came to the place of the arrow that Jonathan had shot, Jonathan called after the boy and said, Is not the arrow beyond you? And Jonathan called after the boy, Hurry, be quick, do not stay. So Jonathan's boy gathered up the arrows and came to his master, but the boy knew nothing. Only Jonathan and David knew the matter. And Jonathan gave his weapons to the boy, and he said to him, Go and carry them to the city. And as soon as the boy had gone, David arose from beside the stone heap and fell on his face to the ground and bowed 3 times. And they kissed one another and wept with one another, David weeping the most. And Jonathan said to David, Go in peace, because we have sworn, both of us, in the name of the Lord, saying, The Lord shall be between me and you, and between my offspring and your offspring forever. And he rose and departed, and Jonathan went into the city. So, long chapter there. Thank you for listening. I hope you didn't tune that part out. That's the word that now we're going to try to do our best to interpret. I'm going to try to apply. I think this is a very practical passage. In fact, I think the main point for us tonight is to look at what a godly friendship looks like. The godly friendship here put on display through a very testing and trying time. The friendship between 2 godly men, Jonathan and David. So first, let me defend why I think that's the main point. Yes, I think there are other many things going on, and it's going to be hard for me not to, that's my wife texting me, be hard for me not to bring them up, all the distracting things that are going on, good things though they are. But the story is not just about how to save David's life, or just another time that David's being pursued, or about arrows and how to aim arrows and how to plot in this way. The reason why I think it's about their friendship is because no other time in the book of Samuel is Jonathan focused on for so many verses with an emphasis on his covenant in the Lord with David. So it's here showing Jonathan's great devotion to David, their character agreement and union in the Lord as far as friendship goes. And then the way that the story ends, one of the commentaries brought this out, David bows to Jonathan 3 times. Which is the most that any human character bows at all in Scripture. So here just signifying that his friendship and his appreciation to what Jonathan has done for him is very important to us. So I propose to you this is something we can learn about their friendship, and I can encourage you in your friendships. One of my shortcomings as a pastor is that I think we overemphasize marriage friendship, so our friendship with one person of the opposite sex. And very rarely do we talk about the goodness of a friendship with someone of the same sex. So a Jonathan with a David with a Jonathan. And then another one, a Naomi with a Ruth. In fact, if you were to lay this chapter next to one of the chapters in the book of Ruth, you would see very many intended parallels to show here is a woman who left her father and her household and took many risks to say, where you go, I will go, your God will be my God, and served and demonstrated her love in a friendship kind of way. Naomi and Ruth, and here Jonathan and David. So I think this is a call to the men of our church to have godly friendships, intimate friendships that are built on trust and serving one another in the same way that we would have godly women growing in this in our church with other godly women. So 10 things, really brief, 10 things that I see, and there are others, plenty others, some of these are more strong than others, 10 things that we see about a godly friend and godly friendship. And so the first couple are going to be redundantly just implicit in the text. And so the first thing we see is that David goes to Jonathan. Verse 1, David fled from Naioth in Ramah and came and said before Jonathan. So David is a strong man. He's the strongest warrior, and he has a deep, deep relationship with God. The Psalms are replete with how much he relies on the Lord as his refuge. I have no one on earth but you, O God. And yet, one of the most godly men in the Old Testament seeks out friendships with other godly people. So if David needed a Jonathan, do you think you would also need a Jonathan? Yes, this friendship does not replace your relationship with the Lord, but it comes from the Lord. David needed a Jonathan. Do you? Paul said he was refreshed by Timothy coming, his friendship and the joy that Timothy got. Surely Paul had enough joy from the Lord? Yeah, but he needed a Timothy who refreshed him. Are you stronger than Paul that you don't need Timothys and Tituses and Luke's or even Jesus? Think about it. Jesus had a close circle of 12 of his best friends. And even with that, he had 3 closer friends. And then the Gospel of John leads us to believe that he had a best friend, John, the beloved disciple. If Jesus sought out friendships, shouldn't you? Don't live in isolation. Grow in more and more friendships like this. The next thing, again, is implicit all throughout the text. It's painfully obvious, is that these friendships, so godly friends seek out friendships, but also, number 2, godly friends seek out godly friendships. Friendships that are based upon their union in the Lord. I see this in verse 2 because of the contrast between Jonathan's friendship with his dad and with David. It says, he said to him, far from it, you shall not die. Behold, my father does nothing, either small or great, without disclosing it to me. And why should my father hide this from me? It is not so. So you see that Jonathan is going to choose his friendship with David over his biological relationship with his human father. And so this is a reminder that our friendships with people that are based on being baptized, being a member of the same church, same allegiance to the Lord Jesus Christ is greater, biblically it is called to be greater than our relationship with people who are not Christians and relationship with family members who are not Christians. That's why Jesus told his disciples, many of you have left fathers, spouses, and friends, and you have found much more in my name, and for my name's sake, and will be rewarded. So do you have not just friends, so you're a godly person who has many friends, good, close friends, but are your best friends godly friends? I would encourage you, the best place to find friends like that would be in your local church. If you can't find friends like that in your local church, then one, something's wrong with you, or something's wrong with your local church. Find a church where you can find friends like this. This is the best place to have accountability relationships, for them to watch over you in the Lord's Supper and how you treat your spouse and how you sing and how you partake in the ordinances. So friends make their best friends in the Lord. Jesus was friends of sinners, but we see that he was intimate friends with these who were also following the Lord, disciples. Third, I get this from verse 4. So the third thing is that friends show their love in actions. Are you in a godly friendship with another man or another woman? Do you show your love? Do you do it in actions? This is very important. It should go without saying, but verse 4, then Jonathan said to David, whatever you say, I will do for you. What good would it be for Jonathan to say, I really love David, and in my heart, I think about him, I pray for him, but he never stood up for him. He never acted upon his love. He never took him a meal, never called him, never made any kind of sacrifice for him. Friends, we show our love for Jesus when we stand up for his name, when we obey his commandments. And Jesus showed his love for us, not just by feelings and emotions and thoughts, but by feeding us with his word, by feeding the masses, by healing them, by caring about their physical infirmities and doing what he could to minister to them. So godly friendships are based on showing through what we do. So fifth, godly friendships are based upon that both people are willing to rebuke and hold each other accountable. So to call out sin. I see this implicitly in verse 8. David asked Jonathan, he says, "Therefore deal kindly with your servant, for you have brought your servant into a covenant with the Lord. But if there is guilt in me, kill me yourself." So remember, Saul's chasing David, and David is willing to believe maybe it's because there's some wrong I did. Did I sin against Saul? I don't know why he's trying to kill me and all the time and throw spears at me. And so David says to Jonathan, if you find out that I have done wrong, the faithful thing for you to do would be for you to kill me, or in our context, to rebuke me. The men who are my best friends are not my best friends just because they tell me they love me or they buy my meal from time to time, but the best of my friends are the ones who will tell me when I've done wrong. Lucas, you spoke harshly. Lucas, you were not preaching in the spirit, you were preaching in the flesh. Or Lucas, you're not shepherding your family the best you can. You've kind of relaxed the attention you're giving to your family, and you can discipline, or you can speak more compassionately. Best friends, godly friends, rebuke. So you've thought of your friends. Which one of those actually have rebuked you for sin recently, or have been willing to be rebuked? If you have a friendship where it's not based upon calling each other on sin, it's not a true friendship. It's not godly at all. You should find better friends or seek to reform this friendship. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth thing. This is important. Godly friendship is based upon not just loving that person, but loving the people that they also love. I get this from verse 14. Jonathan realizes that he could die in sticking up for David. But he says this in verse 14, "If I am still alive, show me the steadfast love of the Lord, that I may not die. And do not cut off your steadfast love from my house forever." So he says, don't just show your love to me, but show your love to my progeny, to the ones who I love. Jonathan's going to die in battle soon. And David is going to prove his love for Jonathan. When David becomes king, he's going to seek out, he's going to do research, he's going to go around and ask around, is there any children of Jonathan that have survived the war? If there is, I want to invite them to my table. I want to bless them. I want to give them money. And he loves Mephibosheth. It's a great story you can look up in 2 Samuel chapter 9, verse 1 and on. But again, if you're really my friend, won't you care about my wife? Won't you pray for her when she's sick? Won't you love my children, Clara, Josiah, Luke, Asher, and the one to come? It's the same way. How can someone say they love Jesus, I would give my life for Jesus, but they don't love his friends, his offspring, or the generations that he have left behind, his disciples? How, again, does someone say they love Jesus, but don't come to church, but don't give towards the needs of his people, give towards the ministry, and in turn, these kind of friendships? If you say you love Jesus, but you don't love his people, you don't really love Jesus. Again, we show our love. I show my love for Jordan by the way I pray for his children, by the way I pray for his brother or his father, by the way I pray for him in his work and his job. So we show our love not just to our friends, but by the people and things that they love. Number 6, friends make costly self-sacrifices. This one's kind of funny. Look at verse 30. Jonathan's going to stand up for David, show it in action, but in a very self-sacrificial way. Look at verse 30. He's going to stand up to his own biological father. And it says, when you did this, verse 30, "Then Saul's anger was kindled against Jonathan. He said to him, 'You son of a perverse, rebellious woman.'" Okay, so for the record, Jonathan showed his love for David in a way that got him called a nasty name. He risked his reputation. He was called an SOPW, son of a perverse woman. If you're going to love people in a biblical way, you got to be willing to risk your neck for him, for them, for her. In fact, Saul is going to hurl a spear at Jonathan over Jonathan's love for David. He's going to even say, "Don't you know that if you are friends with David, you are forsaking the kingdom? I'm the king and you won't get anything in this kingdom." And Jonathan says, "I'm willing to do it anyways because I love Jonathan." Godly friendships are based not just upon showing our love and doing things, but doing sacrificial things, putting our friends' needs above our own often. That's biblical love. Jesus did this. He did not just love us in word and feelings or even just in healing us of sickness. He died. He ended his life, willingly gave his life as a ransom for us so that we might live, so that we might be made not strangers of God, but friends of God. Ultimate friend there as we think about that. The next one, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Godly friends grieve. Grieve for one another. Look at verse 34. Jonathan rose from the table in fierce anger and ate no food for the second day of the month, for he was grieved for David, because his father had disgraced him. So Jonathan here is not grieving because his dad was so mean to him. No, he's grieving because his friend's reputation, David, was just harmed, and Saul is out to kill David. Do you grieve when your godly friends grieve? Do you grieve for them when they have a bad day? Do you cry with them? We'll see later. Grieve. To grieve when my brother grieves, when they get a bad report. I ought to grieve when my brother or my sister is being slandered at church. I have to stand up for them. How can I let them be treated so? He grieves for him. Number 9. So 2 more. Going really quick through these. Godly friends keep a loyal confidence. They speak to one another in a trustworthy way. There's a lot of information being disclosed here, a lot of privacy, but I want you to see the way in which Jonathan and David can trust each other with what they say, that it won't go anywhere else. This is good as we understand the difference between a fake friendship and a godly friendship. I get this from verse 39. It says, "But the boy knew nothing. Only Jonathan and David knew this matter." The plot to save David, to thwart Saul, to get David out of here. He didn't even let this random person who was in the coffee shop or who happened to be there, he didn't even let him hear, because the things that were being exchanged between these two godly friends was so important that it be kept between them. So are you that kind of friend? Can you keep a secret? Can you keep a secret? Because you love your friend, can you do it? If you ruin friendships when you gossip about your friend. Like maybe you're nice to them here, but then you go to work and talk about them, or you go talk to another friend and talk about this other so-called friend. David and Jonathan did no such thing. Confidence and trustworthy. Do you have friends that you can tell them something and know that they will keep it to their grave? David and Jonathan here do that. And then lastly, verse 42, godly friends bear each other's souls to one another. So they bear their souls to one another. Just look at this. I love it too, because this is men. This is 2 godly men doing what? Look at verse 42. Then Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace, because we have sworn, both of us." Oh, I read the wrong verse. Look at verse 41. Verse 41. Better fix my notes for tonight. Verse 41. As soon as the boy had gone, David rose from beside the stone heap and fell on his face to the ground and bowed 3 times, and they kissed one another and wept with one another, David weeping the most. Godly friends are able to just pour out their heart. I've had a bad day. My marriage is struggling. I'm tired of being persecuted. I'm tired of fighting the sin and not making any progress. Can I just cry on your shoulder? And both of them cried. Do you have a friend, not your spouse, and not just God, but a physical, human, godly friend that you have cried to recently, that you can cry to, that you can just be unashamedly yourself around? You ought to be able to have that. Godly men ought to cry. I mean, we would expect Naomi and Ruth to be crying because that's what women do. But godly men are not afraid to cry and to cry out for help to one another. Do you have a friend you confess sins to, a friend who you share burdens with? This is good. This is one of the main points of this chapter and in the significance of Jonathan and David in the book of 1 Samuel. So a couple of questions to get you to ask yourself again and just reflect. If you're a man out there, do you have a Jonathan? Do you have a David like this? If you're a godly woman out there, do you have a Ruth like this? A Naomi like this? Or are you a Saul? Ask that. Saul had many fans, but he had no intimate friends that he could confess his sins to, that he could trust that would rebuke him and he would hear rebuke? Are you more like a Saul who isolates himself, who is unreasonable, who hurls spears, who can't reason with Scripture and doesn't know that they need accountability and know that they need intimate friendships within the church? Friends, are you a Saul? Or if you say you're not, I hope you're not, and you're a Jonathan, well, who's your David? Or if you're Ruth, who's your Naomi? And then maybe ask, how can, maybe you've been convicted, you don't have many friends like this or any friends like this within your local church, godly friends. What can you do to present yourself in a way that these kind of friendships can begin? The thing I would first say is just initiate. Initiate. Jonathan and David had nothing in common. In fact, Jonathan had everything in common with Saul. It was his dad. He grew up. They knew how to shoot arrows together. But he saw a godly person, and he initiated. He went to him. I want to become your friend. I want to take you out to dinner or coffee, and let's talk. Let's begin to ask each other what we're reading in the Bible. So initiate. Another thing you can do is to start showing your love for those people by proving it, not just saying, hey, I want to be your friend, but by showing it, by the things you do for them or buy them or check up on them or text them, the questions you ask them that show you care about their soul. And another thing is just to present yourself in a humble manner. Just say, hey, I need a friend. I need someone to check up on me. I'm not meant to walk this walk by myself. Will you be a Jonathan? Will you be a David to me? So if you pursue them, I think God will bless this pursuit. You will find them. And if you can't find them in your local church, either something's wrong with you or something's wrong with your local church. I believe Bethany has many of these kind of people, most of them. In fact, I want Bethany to be full of many layers of these kinds of friendship. I hope you have a friend like this. I hope Jesus is your hope and your greatest friend, but I hope Jesus will lead you to have friends like this, just like he did, just like Paul did, and just like David did. Hope to see you all soon. I love you. Good night.